Hey everyone, it's Marc from simplifyinglife.com.au. Interesting. I am currently, it's what is it? The 8th of January 2021. Historic date. I have been put in lockdown, in isolation. I'm currently working out west in Queensland in a place called Spring Gully. It's kind of west from Miles, Chinchilla, Rama way, north there. If you know Queensland a little bit. And because I've went through Brisbane Airport the other day, and we've had one corona COVID case from the UK strain that's pretty contagious, the whole greater Brisbane area has been put into self-isolation, which means that for 3 days, 3 days only, we need to self-isolate. Now, I'm not in Brisbane itself, but because I went through Brisbane Airport to get to where I am, I'm one of them. And the organisation I work for has decided that we all need to isolate as well. So in the camp where I'm sitting at the moment, in this cabin, the donga as it's called in Australian, we have to isolate, and 26 or 27 people have to do the same thing. So I'm one of a crowd. It's an interesting one, but it sort of made me think. It's like people said, a couple of people that mentioned it is like, well, what are you going to do? And I went like, what do you mean? They said, well, aren't you going to get bored out of your skull, or whatever's going on? And it prompted me to think of a mindfulness lesson that I learned a long time ago, and that I still apply. And I actually think I have applied that in all my life, but just never really understood it. That there is only a problem if you make it a problem. That's it. So self-isolation, being stuck in this little cabin here, 4x4 meters, is only a problem if I make it a problem. Otherwise, it's just a cabin with me in it. Nothing more, nothing less. And I know that sounds very simple, and it is very simple when you look at it from that point of view. The simplistic attitude, but the very wise attitude, I think, is if I can be okay with whatever situation I've been put in, then there is no problem. And I've done that for a majority of my life. I've never really known the concept of boredom, because I just don't do bored. Boredom is not a problem for me because I just don't do boredom, because there's always something to do, whether it's meditation, thought, writing, doing nothing, which can actually be a really cool activity. So boredom in my case doesn't exist. And it's the same with this. Do I enjoy being in my cabin for 3 days with food being handed out to me and not being able to leave it? No, not necessarily. But do I mind being in my cabin with all these conditions? No, I don't. And I think that's where the mindfulness or counseling lesson can be for many people. And again, I'm never saying this because I'm so good or great, because I've got plenty of stuff. But this one is just not one of mine. I'd rather be outside. I'd rather be walking. I'd rather be doing stuff. But to be stuck in this cabin, or stuck is not even the right word, to just be in this cabin for 3 days just because that is what the organization thinks is the wisest and smartest thing to do. Okay, I'll find something to do. And even if I didn't have anything to do because I didn't have my phone or I didn't have internet, which I actually do have, so it's all the creature comforts I hear, I would make something of it because it is the situation I'm in and that's what I'm dealing with. And that's where the counseling lesson comes in. Most people come in with a problem and they want that problem changed because it needs fixing. Now, some problems can actually be fixed, and then I will go like, well, why not? Let's fix it. But many of the problems people are facing are not fixable ones. They are part of their mindset, their conscience, their way of living. And to keep resisting that problem, to keep kicking at it, to keep trying to get rid of it, to keep pushing it away, to keep judging it, to make it wrong, actually adds another layer of misery on top of the already existing misery in the first place. So that becomes a double cheese sandwich in a sense, and if you don't like cheese, that's not a good thing. So what's the lesson here? Well, for me, there really is not much of a lesson. I just have to be in my room for 3 days, and then I'm free to roam again. The lesson I think that I'd like to get you, or to like to get clients to see, or at least to start thinking about, you don't have to agree with me, but to start thinking about is, what if all our problems are more or less problems of the mind rather than real ones? And I'm not saying that there are no problems, But most of the problems are problems of the mind because we make them a problem. Whereas if we are faced with a challenge and we can become solution focused and actually solve that challenge, go for it. But most of the time, our 21st century problems are problems of the mind. We are anxious, we fear things, we have all sorts of concerns and stresses about future stuff or about past stuff that we can't change anymore. And those ones cannot be fixed, not really, because it's either not happened yet or it's already long gone. So an attitude of being okay with not being okay, or an attitude of stepping away from a problem state and actually seeing it as a state rather than as a problem state, can already be part of the journey forwards, if that makes sense. Now, maybe it doesn't make sense and we can talk about it. But the idea is to start to be more okay with being not okay. Because if we can be in that space, which acceptance and commitment therapy calls it acceptance, and mindfulness calls it as well, that acceptance stage of just being okay with whatever is currently happening, then first of all, we can look at what we are doing with that on our minds from is that actually the most effective way of dealing with it? But it also actually stops being a problem, because if a situation is just a situation, it is just a situation. Nothing more, nothing less. So I hope that's helpful. I think in the coming 3 days, I'll have plenty of more videos because I've got plenty of time on my hands. So watch me go. Maybe not. I'll see what I'm going to do. I'll definitely not be bored. And look forward to keeping you updated. Have a good one.